Hello, everybody, and thanks to what you sent in, today we're going to talk about why a priest wears what he wears. This, what you're seeing me wear right now with the jacket and the tab collar, is really a recent phenomena if you think about the 2,000-year history of the church. Actually, for most of the history of the church, this is not what a priest wore, this tongue depressor thing that we stick around our neck. For much of the recent history, particularly of the Catholic Church, the garb, which you really wouldn't wear underneath this shirt, I was just doing it for effect, would have been the cassock, which you see me wearing now. Clergy didn't always wear distinctive garb, obviously. Jesus did not ascend into heaven, and Peter and the rest of the apostles say, okay, what are we going to wear? They wore exactly the same thing everybody else wore. Now, over time, of course, something developed. It was easy back then. You knew a priest who he was by his conduct, hopefully, and the way he led the community. As society became more complicated and dress changed dramatically, distinctive clothing for priests and clergy in general developed. As male clothing became fancier, there became rules around what a priest would wear. He was to wear something more somber, less frilly than what was popular amongst other people. So the dress of the clergy slowly developed. And this happened in many different areas of life as we needed to identify people more readily as society became a little bit more complicated. So you saw judges wearing something differently, or police, or nurses, or flight attendants, or docents at the museum. Father Benedict Groeschel used to call these people portals. You would see, you were in a city and you saw a mass of people and you were wondering, who can I talk to find my way around? And there was always a safe person. If you spotted a police officer, you could go up and say, where am I and how do I find the museum, or something like that. And he lamented that we're losing so much of this in our modern society as we become more and more casual. He particularly lamented it about religious people and priests, that we're becoming more and more invisible. It was the fact that we stood out, that you saw the Roman collar and you went, the Catholic Church is present and there is someone with whom I can speak. When it became necessary for clergy to step out more and more in their particular communities, and their garb became a little bit more noticeable than the rest, one of the things that they might have worn was a stiff collared shirt with what was over it called a preaching cravat. You know, and you'd have this the shirt sticking up like this and a cravat over it. Now, a lot of this is kind of hazy in the mist of history, but this is basically accepted of how the Roman collar came about. At some point, someone folded down that collar over that, revealing this white square in the middle, and eventually this became perhaps the Roman collar. Now, what do we wear at Mass? There are a number of things that we wear at the Mass when we're getting ready to preach. Clothing for priests go, of course, all the way back to the Old Testament. And the first thing that we would put on is what's called an amice. Now, this is now a optional piece of vestry for a priest. You do not have to wear them since the Second Vatican Council. In Greco-Roman world, the amice was a head covering worn underneath your helmet or your underneath your helmet. It would prevent sweat from coming down into your eyes. And for a priest, it serves much the same purpose. Is if you're sweating, it protects your vestments and things like that. It also helps cover up this, which is basically street garb, right? So we want to cover up street garb and who the priest is, because it's not the priest, it's what he stands for and what he does. So you would put the amice on, something like this, and you would tuck it into your collar. Now many albs, which is the next thing I'm going to show you, cover up your street clothing quite well on their own. Some of them don't. I like to continue to wear the amice because it protects the alb, and the albs with which I wear an amice have lasted me 20-some years. Other ones I have to replace, particularly because of my scratchy beard. One of the things that a priest can do as he's getting dressed is to say some prayers to which some certain graces are attached. And what he might say as he's putting on the amice is, "Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, the word of God. Place, O Lord, the helmet of salvation on my head to resist the attacks of the devil." Now, the second piece that a priest would wear is the alba, sometimes jokingly referred to as liturgical underwear. The purpose of it is to go under everything else that you're going to be wearing, and also to, once again, cover up all your street garb. It reminds the priest of his baptism when he was clothed in white to signify his freedom from sin and the purity of new life and his Christian dignity. The prayer that he might say, as he's putting on this particular piece of vestry, is, "Make me white, O Lord, and purify my heart, so that being made white in the blood of the Lamb, I may deserve an eternal reward." Next in line is the cincture, which looks amazingly like a rope and is used much like a belt. This, too, is optional since Vatican II. I find it still very useful, particularly since I am tall and thin and have poor posture. I think it makes the vestments look better and hang better. It's also extremely convenient for hanging your microphone on underneath, and you don't have to dig through then to find your pocket. What a priest might pray as he's putting on this particular piece of vestry is, "Gird me, O Lord, with the cincture of purity, and extinguish in my heart the fire of concupiscence, so that the virtue of continence and chastity, always abiding in my heart, I may better serve thee." Next is the stole. The stole is a sign of authority and says that I have, or any priest, has the authority to carry out the various ministries that he does, particularly when celebrating the sacraments or giving blessings. It's kind of like if a police officer comes to you and you want to know if a police officer can do what a police officer says he can do, he shows you his badge. I would put on this stole. So it's a sign of authority, and the prayer that a priest might pray as he's getting vested would be, "Restore unto me, O Lord, the stole of immortality, which I lost through sin of my first parents, and although unworthy to approach thy sacred mysteries, may I nevertheless attain to joy eternal." Finally, at least for today, we have the chasuble. Now, both the stole and the chasuble come in various colors, that liturgical colors that we would wear throughout the year, and it would tell you something about the ceremony that you would be seeing when you are attending Mass. For instance, we just got out of the Lenten time period in which you saw the priest wearing purple. In Easter, we would wear white or gold or silver, all of which are the same color liturgically. You might wear green during ordinary time, and there are other colors. This particular vestment was made for St. Sebastian Parish by Karen Spangler, who did most of the vestment that you see here, and Carly Smith, who made these designs. These designs are particular to the parish of St. Sebastian. This circular design that you see here with the angel in the middle is over all the doors at St. Sebastian Parish. What it is a guardian angel, and he's forming an M with his wings because the founding pastor had such a deep devotion to Mary, M standing for Mary. On the other side, you see a picture of the pelican piercing its own breast with its beak and feeding its young with its blood. This is a symbol of the Eucharist and can be found on the altar rail at St. Sebastian Parish. The chasuble is a symbol of charity. And it goes on over everything else. Charity covers over all. Some priests, from time to time, will choose to wear the stole, they call it an overlay stole, over the chasuble, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense. We don't want the symbol of authority over charity. Rather, our charity covers over the authority. The general instruction of the Roman Missal says this: the vestments should therefore symbolize the function of each ministry, but at the same time, the vestments should also contribute to the beauty of the rite. Moreover, the vestments inspire the priest and all the faithful to meditate on their rich symbolism. So, now at least you have a little bit of an idea of why a priest wears what he wears on a day-to-day basis, as well as what he wears to celebrate Mass and some of the other sacraments. I hope you've enjoyed this time with me. I've enjoyed it with you. And please say a prayer for me. I'm going to say a prayer for you. And we make a prayer for St. Sebastian, who's the patron saint to invoke against plagues. All right. I got to start Mass. I'll see you.